Hey everybody, it's Curtis back with another review. Welcome to my gym. Today we're going to be looking at the difference between the Rep Fitness AB5000 Zero Gap and the Rogue Fitness AB3. So really what this video is going to be putting out is differences and similarities between these two benches. First and foremost, the Rogue AB3 coming in at $935 without shipping. The AB5000, $499. So obviously there's a really big difference there, but I think what you guys are going to see is there's actually quite a bit of a quality difference between these two products. What do these two benches have in common? Well, they're both adjustable benches. They are capable of doing both incline, like they're set up for here, as well as decline with the addition of the foot roller assemblies that can either be taken off or kept on the bench depending on how you use it. The big difference between how these things adjust up and down is pretty much that the Rep Fitness version has this zero gap, we'll call it technology. All that they do to get this technology is they have a couple sliders that are on rods, and you just pull a pop pin down after you unscrew it, and it slides in and out. The whole idea behind the zero gap technology is that you don't end up with this annoying gap that can oftentimes be a little bit distracting or annoying, especially when it comes to flat benching. So besides the zero gap technology, there are a lot of differences between the two benches. So first, the handle placement is higher up on the Rogue AB3 versus the AB5000 Zero Gap. In my opinion, the Rogue AB3 wins hands down. It is significantly easier to move around and handle with this handle that hangs down, but it's available at a higher elevation. With this one, I often find that when I pick this bench up, I might use this handle to get it off the ground, but when I'm moving it around, I just grab it by the feet. Now on the front feet, the zero gap version has this 3-foot, like this 3-prong T crossing, where the Rogue bench does not have that. The idea behind this is to provide a little bit more stability coming out the front side of the bench, especially when you're using it in a decline mode. I will say from experience that between the Rep Fitness bench and the Rogue bench, there is negligible difference when you are using it in the decline position based on the location of this foot. Additionally, on those front feet, the Rep Fitness version is a bolt together design that helps to save on shipping, I imagine, and because of that, it is inherently a little bit less stable. Another big difference with the front feet is the style of rubber pad that they use. This is important because the rubber pad is what causes the bench to not slide back and forth when you're inside the rack. On the Rogue Fitness version, what we have are these circle type little pads that are bolted onto the foot assembly itself. On the Rep Fitness version, these actually slide onto the square tubing. Just as a note though, the notch that holds this on there is deep enough that I've never had an issue with this actually just slipping off. Now between the two, in my experience, in my opinion, this Rogue rubber is significantly better than, this is more of like a plastic material. Now mind you, it is rubber, it is flexible like rubber, but it's so hard that it doesn't really grab into the surface that you're on. What this results in is the bench oftentimes moving back. So if you get set up and you're in an incline bench press, when you push with your feet to get that leg drive, with the Rep Fitness bench, you have a higher probability of slightly pushing the bench backwards. The Rogue Fitness version, it doesn't come off. I imagine that it could potentially tear, but I would be willing to bet that if it did, if you reached out to Rogue Fitness, they'd be willing to send you a new one. But between the two feet designs, I strongly like the Rogue version a lot better. I think it holds better, and I also think it's a little bit more stable than this design. As you can see, the adjustment of the back pads is easy enough. Both designs are a 3 support beam. So on the spine that runs underneath this pad, there are 3 leaves that come out. So one here, and one here. What that does, it provides plenty of stability for the back pad so it doesn't rock back and forth on the actual spine of the bench itself. So with that, they're pretty much equal. However, one thing that I would say is dramatically different between the two is the stability of the bench itself. Now, Rep has taken some action to increase the stability a little bit, but even with the improvements, there's just that little bit of kind of instability, wiggleness, where with the Rogue one, you don't really get that. So between the two, when it comes to stability, the Rogue one's gonna win every single time. Now let's talk about weight real quick. The Rogue bench comes in at 117 pounds. 117 pounds really isn't that bad when you think of all the material that it takes to make this bench. This is all 11 gauge, 2x2 square tubing, a little bit of 2x3 up on the foot pads, and it's zapped together, and it actually doesn't weigh that much for how stable it is. They intelligently use their 2x2 tubing so that it runs parallel on the main support piece underneath. What this allows you to do is lighten the design but increase the stability. It also increases the number of welds that you actually have to do, which I imagine is what drives to a little bit more of the cost factor between the two. Please keep in mind, this Rogue bench is almost twice as much as the Rep one. Has a single 2x4 design and construction, and what they did to allow for this adjustment piece is they just cut a hole that it could slide back and forth without actually hitting the main spine portion of the bench. Now with that, I don't understand why, but this Rep bench, it just feels heavier. I don't actually know if it is heavier or not, but it just feels heavier. It's a little bit more cumbersome. It's not as enjoyable to move around the gym. However, it costs half as much. So another area, and maybe it's not that big of a difference, but it's one of those little touches that I think that Rep really did well, is they have these angle markers on this stainless steel piece that runs alongside where the pin goes. Does it really make that big of a difference? No, but it is interesting that the less expensive bench has a nicer functionality when it comes to that piece in particular. One of the other areas that I don't know why I like this so much, but I really like these anodized pop pins. Rogue uses their T-handle style pop pins. These are the same pop pins that you'll find on the Monster Light trolleys. They're fine to grab. They're actually really easy to grab with 2 fingers, and both function the same, but they just use all black, no number guides. These guys are using anodized and number guides. The foot roller assembly is also a very dramatic difference between the two brands. The Rogue is a welded construction. It comes off and on so easy, and it's that typical Rogue heavy dutiness. The actual foot rollers are a really high quality, nice and thick. I think they're probably like 5 inches in diameter foam foot rollers. I'm pretty sure these are the exact same foot rollers that you would find on their GHDs. And it's just a single pop pin here that adjusts. The tolerance between the outside diameter of this square tubing and the inside diameter of this square tubing is so little that it naturally has a really high amount of stability with the bench. You can see there is a little bit of rocking, but it's really not that much. Now the Rep Fitness design, it uses a tightening pin as well as a tightening and pop pin over on the side. This is made with significantly less nice material. Rather than the welded construction that this pin has, this one is a pin that goes through and it works independently of the actual material itself. It's basically when you buy the foot roller assembly for this bench, what you get is this assembly, and this foot roller comes off and this foot roller comes off, and it's this 1-inch solid bar, and you slip this through in order to install it. A couple notes: for the end caps on the Rogue one, you can see that they use a washer assembly on the end of the foot roller. What that does is it dissipates the force that's put onto that pad across a larger area, which will increase the longevity of the pad itself. Now, the Rep Fitness version doesn't have that washer, and it also doesn't have that natural stability that comes from having welded construction. You do, however, get 4 different adjustment holes, so if you want this pad closer or farther away, you can easily make that adjustment. In order to install it, all that you do is slide it in, tighten the pop pin, because if you don't tighten that, so if we just have the pop pin installed, so installed just kind of the same as this one, it is just all over the place. When you tighten down the pop pin, as well as the kind of pressure pin, you can see that the only real play you get independent of the bench and the foot roller assembly is actually just in these 1-inch rods that go through. So the frame itself on the Rep bench is actually more stable than the Rogue bench, but the Rogue bench is overall more stable because it's welded construction. Had this been welded construction, Rep would have easily taken this one and there would have been a victory for them. One of the things that I noticed with these benches is that if you place them right, you can actually use them as a foot support, for doing split squats. Now, something to note, with the Rogue bench, the hole for the pop pin is only on one side. It's not on both sides. So if you do this with the Rogue bench, it's really not secure. Now with the Rep bench, the hole goes through both sides, and what that enables you to do is actually secure it in this position. Now what you can actually do is you can kick your foot back here, and you can perform split squats on both benches. Just as a quick note though, like I mentioned earlier, with the Rogue bench, if you were to do this, there is the potential that it could just slide right out. So if I was able to send a message to Rogue, it would be that when you drill this hole, maybe drill it all the way through, because there's plenty of variations that involve a foot being suspended. I mean, they sell foot roller pads for a reason for racks. So maybe one of the areas that Rogue can make that improvement is to drill this hole all the way through, which would give you the ability to install it both upwards and the traditional downwards. The last thing I want to cover before we wrap up this video is the material that the actual bench pad is made out of. The Rogue one is your typical Rogue bench. If you've been on any Rogue bench other than the fat pads, it's that same very grippy, very firm. It maintains its shape, and it doesn't really take your shape when you lay down on it. There's some cheaper benches out there that when you lay down on them and you get up, you can like see where your back was. These things are resilient. They're made out of really good foam. They retain their shape and they last a long time. Additionally, there's like a fabric that is all around the edge, and that fabric helps to breathe so you don't get mold trapped inside of here. And it also just kind of makes it a little bit more resilient because things tend to scrape along the sides. The actual size of the pads is the same, but the material that they're made out of is different. The Rep bench, now I was on the Rep website and it said it has a new pad design for the zero gap bench. This is not the new pad design. This video was made 6 November of 2020, and This is not the new pad design, so I can't really speak to the new pad design, but I can tell you that the old pad design, it's just kind of okay. This has fabric on the sides, this has like pleather on the sides. This shows wear pretty quickly, this does not. This is a little bit less resilient, this is a little bit more resilient, and this is also a little bit slick. So if you are a power lifter and bench pressing is super important to you and the pad material that you drive into is super important, this rep bench does not quite have the same level that the Rogue One does. Now, if the decline option doesn't matter for you, so you don't care that you can put your foot onto these foot rollers and do decline work, whether it's sit-ups, dumbbells, or barbell bench press, then maybe something that you could consider for a little bit less money, for about $120 less, you can get the Rogue AB2. The Rogue AB2 is identical to the Rogue AB3 with two exceptions. The first one, you don't get the foot roller assembly, and the reason you don't get that foot roller assembly is because the spine is manufactured different. The spine that's underneath the pad doesn't have this operation here, so it doesn't have a hollow tube with the push pin so that you can mount the foot roller assembly. So for a little bit less money, for $815, which is still a lot of money for a piece of garage gym equipment, you can get the Rogue AB2. In my opinion, it is a significantly superior bench. However, I really can't discount the Rogue AB5000 Zero Gap. I own this bench and I really like this bench. I don't like the decline function of it. I think that it's just a little bit too unstable for me to be comfortable with. I still use it for decline work. It just bothers me how much it moves around when I'm doing decline work. But for incline work and for flat work, this bench works just fine, especially for general strength and conditioning for garage gyms. Now, if you're in a commercial facility, do not buy this bench. In my opinion, you will wear through it super quick. You're gonna end up buying pads and foot rollers so often that I think you might as well just go for the better option, which is the Rogue AB2 or AB3. All right, so that's been my comparison between the two benches. Tell me what you guys think at home. Do you think that the Rogue is a worthwhile purchase for garage gym owners? Or do you think that Rep is currently kind of the garage gym bench king? Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. I hope you guys will hit that like button. I hope you subscribe, and if you hit the bell every single time that I publish a video, you will see one pop up and you can click on it and watch it. And remember that when it comes to building your garage gym, you should always try to make it better, awesome, and of course, badass. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.